Hi everyone. I want to chat today about words. Words are so powerful. As humans, I feel like they're a very powerful force. The spoken word, the written word. Think about all the things you've written down in your life this far. Think about all the words you've spoken. The good words, the bad words. The books you've read that pulled you. The books that you've read that you didn't finish because they didn't keep you interested. That's powerful shit. I think about the power behind words. And I think the hardest thing when I was coming into my own power was my temper, because I'm quick to a temper. And then I thought, when I get these feelings that come over me and I just want my temper to do the talking, and it has before, and it's bitten me on the ass before, or I've manifested some powerful shit while angry, good and bad. And then I kind of thought about why I changed, why I felt the need to change, why I didn't just continue down a path that just allowed me to be angry and I could just say whatever came to my mind first, no matter who it hurt. And I think it was the time, because my witchcraft kind of started on the craft. I had no idea how powerful my spells that I wrote or said out loud were. No idea. I was just doing spells to do spells because I felt like that's what I needed to do. It was an innate power within me that I knew I needed to be performing rituals and performing spells, but I was just doing it for the effort's sake. I wasn't actually feeling the effects. And then I got to thinking, okay, well, it could have been changing the way my mind had worked, because I went from being a witchy initiate, so to speak, and then getting to a place of spirituality too. And that really changed the way I thought about mindfulness. And being a lover of studying and writing things down, I thought, do I need to be careful with what I write down? Do I need to be careful with what I spout out? And then I thought, yes, sometimes. It was all about the sacrificing for the greater good type of a mentality for me, because it's like, okay, well, if I say what I'm really thinking, it'll hurt this person emotionally. Will that serve any of us in the long run? I was having those thoughts that, no. Yeah, I'll get it off my chest, but it's not going to serve the relationship, and it's not going to serve that person. Or when I write things down, I automatically write and journal all the time. And I learned by journaling, because I take extensive notes on a lot of things that happen in my life, always have. I felt like when I started really automatic writing, a couple of years ago, I didn't start that way. I just wrote things down that I thought were important, that I could go back and read and stuff. And then I would reread some things, and I was like, I know I was thinking something else at the time. I know I had more things on my mind. So then when I started incorporating automatic writing into my practice, I'll say, I learned I can get a lot of things off my chest that I don't even know are on my chest. And it's a way for my brain to purge those thoughts, good or bad, onto paper. And then when I go back and reread them, I know all the things that were serving me. And that's been so powerful to think about. Okay, let's back up a second. The purpose of this video came about because I was watching a documentary on water. Literally water. how water changes when it's spoken to. Literally, the properties of the particles change when it's spoken to in like a positive way or positive music. But then there's certain music and certain angry words that water responds negatively to. And I thought, holy shit, if we are made up of mostly water, we're the same way. All the water particles, just think about just the water particles, all the water particles in our body. When someone spews some bullshit at us, right, or is mad at us, or is, what is that doing to all the water particles in our body? Nothing good. And then I thought about the hugs and the positive words that we get. You did great, those types of feelings that we get. Those water particles are doing some beautiful fucking things in our bodies when that happens. And then those thoughts branched out into all relationships that I have. The toxic relationships that I've had, the good relationships that I have, and how the most important aspect of a relationship to me now, because it took years, folks, to figure this out, but in relationships with people, okay, the most important aspect I have found is communication. When I got married, me and him, we are so different. And nothing neither one of us did was enough to have a foot out the door. It was never like that with us. It was fights and arguments and disagreements, right, at the beginning. But it was more so that we were learning each other. And we knew that about each other. And we knew no matter what the other person did in a fight or said some shit below the belt, we were still learning what the buttons are of the other person. And it took years, okay, to figure out where the buttons are. If I push it halfway, is it still going to give me the same effect? And then after that, we started learning that what we weren't doing right is communicating. Once we figured that out, we communicate about everything. Good and bad. What's not serving me in this relationship, what's not serving him in this relationship. And it became so powerful. My grandmother used to say her favorite saying, okay? My grandmother figure throughout my childhood was actually a next door neighbor. But she had a favorite saying. You can say anything to anybody. It's how you say it. She used to get on to my mom all the time about the way my mom would say or do something, right? But she would never come across as, well, you're doing this wrong. No. She would say something like, well, when I was raising my kids, I would have done this. Instead of putting the fault, because it wasn't a fault. It was I'm here for you, I've been there, done that type of a communicating. It was the way she communicated that expanded the way my mom communicated too, because of their relationship. And I thought, that's the power of words, man. So all of these thoughts came about from this documentary. Literally 4 minutes of a documentary. And, well, it was kind of like a video about a study that had been performed, and then I kind of chased rabbits off of that. But I'll leave that 4-minute video down below because it's pretty interesting for a quick old, this is what happens to water when it's spoken to in a stern way. And I started having all these memories and flashes of my mother, my grandmother figure, my relationship with others, my relationship to my kids, how I've evolved and changed with the power of words. In today's society, I feel like it's so hard not to voice our emotions, not to put a voice to them. You know, it's because it's so easy now with social media. You just, whatever you're feeling, good or bad, you can put out there to the world. But we have no idea what battles these strangers are dealing with. So when we put our bad, I'll call it bad word juju, out into the universe, right? And some stranger out there is battling something, and they read that, and their particles are already all fucked up because of what they're going through. They're water particles, let's just say. And they read this, and the power of that cuts them deeper. You never know, ever, what your words, even if they're not meant to reach someone who's going through something that will tip them over the edge. You never know what it's going to do. And now I'm not saying don't share, okay? I'm not saying that, you know, when you're going through bad shit, you can't tell it to someone, okay? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's so hard for us in this age of social media not to put a voice to the emotions. I feel like when I went down this rabbit hole of the power of words, it got me thinking, like I said, about my relationship with the people that I've had in my life that haven't been so good with words and that really were good with words, and then how I can relay this knowledge that words have power to my children so that they have that knowledge in the back of their head. These are important things in life. And as humans, this is the most powerful force we possess, is communication, spoken and written word. I also thought about the filters that words carry. You know, like when you know Snapchat filters or whatever. Those are filters, right? Words have them too. It's like, say, a first impression. If I told someone that's never had a grapefruit before that it's really bitter, they're not going to like it, how am I going to know? How dare I tell them that? They need to make up their own mind. And then they will. Because guess what that kind of does? They eat that grapefruit. At first, they're really not interested in eating the grapefruit because you've told them it sucks. So they're kind of leery. But if they ever tried it and loved it, they lose faith in you, not the grapefruit. That's a powerful force right there. If I tell so-and-so, I'm going to ask so-and-so on a date, and then it somehow gets to that person before I have a chance to ask them, right? And then say she's not really interested. I'll know by the face before I even ask. It's like setting the impression. Like, say it gets to her and somebody's like, oh, well, you know, I don't really know him that well, but I don't think he's this and I don't think he's that. And blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's a powerful first impression. Again, she's going to be leery, right? To accept. Instead of making up her own mind whether he's a good or bad match. These are powerful things. Now I want to talk about self-love for a second. Okay? Because I've been talking about outer forces, outer people. Okay? People that I have relationships that communicate with me. But what about communicating with myself? Is that powerful too? Sure. If I go through life and say, I really, you know, I'm overweight. I really have a bad relationship with food. I really don't like the jiggle in my arm. I don't like the way that this happens or that happens. That's a communication. That's you telling the water particles in your body that you don't give a shit. But by saying something positive, pick something that you like about yourself. gratitude magic. But you could say something like, I'm working on my best body. I'm working on my best self. That's positivity in those water particles. And it's doing a beautiful thing. Or, I love who I am today. And I'm going to work on tomorrow. Putting the positivity down, even though you're not there yet, okay? And you know you're not there yet. Bashing yourself is a communication with the self. And it will do the same and have the same effect as someone else saying the same shit to you. If someone else were to come up to you, I was bullied for being overweight. And a couple of other things that I was weird about. But it was more so like, I never believed these folks because it was like, okay, well, why do you care? Like, none of that shit's your fault. Sure, I'm fat. It's not your fault. I don't know why you feel like you have to say it. I was having those kind of thoughts. But that was my wall. And it didn't allow me to have many friends because I had this freaking, 12-inch steel wall up. A lot of shit's bouncing off of that. No one's getting in. But no one's getting in. And I've learned that I have to open myself a little bit, okay? Yeah, the steel wall is still there, but I've opened the safe door, allowed some good shit and the air to flow, right? Communication with people, and if they're not communicating in a way that is my water particles in my body are doing some good shit, then they're not serving me. And it's knowing that about yourself, it's knowing that about the other person, and it's knowing that about the communication you have with those people. Good and bad people. For me, I always believed that words carry vibrations. Like when I speak something, they're like radiating vibrations out. Like sound waves. Duh. That's actually what happens. Blasting everybody with my sound waves, right? Therefore, if we are manipulating our reality with our sound waves, I feel like maybe the same thing happens like with the water in our body, positive and negative. What if our sound waves that we're blasting people with are changing the vibrations in the room and changing the vibrations with that other person? And so therefore, to make and manipulate and control and have our best reality around ourselves, like my reality, I think of it kind of like the flower of life. I've said this before. If my bubble, if I'm radiating all these sound waves and they're radiating all the way through like a ripple effect through this flower of life to all the people I'm connected to, how am I going to make my best reality if I'm putting out some bad shit, sludge vibrations, that's going to person to person to person to person. And then that's going inner too. And we can't make our best reality if we're not communicating with our reality in the best way possible. The best way for us. Say we have a thought, which are powerful things too. When we decide to say them, to put them down into words in one way or the other, writing them or saying them, that's kind of like law of attraction. That makes it into affirmations, right? Which can become a manifestation overload with one word or a couple of words. So in spellcraft, if I'm doing a spell, if I'm writing one down, and I don't really think about the words and how those words are going to manifest something, right? That's not serving me. That's not serving my reality. It could be one word. Prosperity. Bam. radiating prosperity magic onto my flower of life reality, right? I feel like saying and doing, well, it's mostly the power of words behind the spells. That's kind of like if I read a spell. I've said this before, I think recently. If I read a spell that someone wrote and it really resonates with me and I'm like, wow, I can feel the effects of this spell, but I don't manipulate the wording to serve my reality, I'm not serving myself. That's a powerful thing that I do, that I like to do, that changes the course of, because my reality is different than whoever wrote this spell. Even if I really resonate with it, I can take certain aspects of the spell and change the words around to where it really benefits my reality. That's a powerful thing I can do in communication with my practice. And I think communication is the biggest thing and the best thing we can do for ourselves and the people in our lives. I think that that's the most important thing. And knowing the power of words, knowing the power of, for all those out there, I'm raising my hand too, that have been the victim of condescending, belittling, harmful words that just cut like knives. They cut so deep. You can't see. And that's what's so powerful about words, is that you cannot see the wounds that they inflict. And people get better and better at hiding them. Choose your words carefully. So, I feel like in a lot of my videos, I just like ramble about things. I take certain documentaries and articles that I read and I just like go on tangents. So that's what my channel has become. So I'll come back and revisit some juicy topics like this in the future, I'm pretty sure. So I hope you like this, and I hope that you check out the documentary. Like I said, it's only 4 minutes, and if you want to continue to dive on this particular scientist's studies, then that would be some powerful shit. But it was so interesting to watch how water particles adapt to words that are spoken and songs that are spoken. And think about that in your day-to-day life, your mundane day-to-day life, and even your witch and spellcraft and ritual work. And I just want people to be mindful of the power behind it. So, much love.